You're watching a segment of The Splash, Greater West Bloomfield's news magazine show. Welcome back to The Splash. I'm Jonathan Jackson, and my guest on the show this week is author, speaker, and Holocaust survivor Irene Miller, who is also a resident here within the township. Irene, thank you for joining me.
Glad to be here.
Your story is very interesting, Irene. You are a Holocaust survivor, like I said, and growing up, what was your experience like? I know it must have been difficult, but can you take us back through what it was like for you during that time?
First of all, my Holocaust experience is not the usual what people assume that someone survived in a camp in Poland and so on. My survival is very different. This is probably one of the reasons the University of Michigan was very interested for me to write my memoir, yes. I started off with Poland, spent months or weeks on the no man's land, spent years in Siberia where the bears were coming to the door front. Lived on boiled grass and leaves for long stretches in Uzbekistan, and so on. So to say how was my survival journey, it's such a long story, difficult to summarize it in one sentence or two.
No, of course, but the great thing is you're here today, and you're sharing your story, like you said. You have written books on it, and yeah.
And the reason I am sharing my story, not just here, but I hope we have a chance to talk about it. I speak all over, not just Michigan, but in other states too. I used my Holocaust experiences to promote tolerance and acceptance of diversity, because my life story is not just the darkest chapter of human history, but an example of what happened when a nation did not accept diversity, and what can happen unless we learn from it.
You know, what's great about that, like you mentioned diversity, is the fact that you do go everywhere and you speak as often as you can and at as many places as you can.
Yes, I mentioned to you beforehand, I just came from the UP.
Yes, yes.
My significant other, Bob Hauk, does the driving, which allows me to accept speaking engagement remote from my home base, because we put in 1,300 miles back and forth to Marquette, to Houghton and Hancock, and I spoke there in a church, was the Interfaith Holocaust Memorial Program. Wow. I spoke in high schools. I spoke at the university, Northern Michigan University. Then there was an interfaith program in Houghton, and it was in a synagogue that had 200 seats.
Wow.
Not just the seats were taking, there was no standing room. People were sitting in the aisles.
That's great. That's great.
Yes.
Do you ever get, nervous doing public speaking anymore?
No.
I mean, I guess since you've done it so much.
No, I like to speak to large gatherings because this is an opportunity to expose a lot of people to the message, not just to the story. When I was in Indiana, in one of the schools were 1,600 students and 150 teachers. And the newspaper article, and they sent me electronic copy, said you could have heard a pin drop.
That's how...
And I get some wonderful questions from students.
Yes, of course.
And I always welcome questions.
Now, I have another question for you, speaking
Sure.
of which. How did you end up here in West Bloomfield, in our wonderful community?
Well, my husband worked in GE in Cincinnati. He was laid off. There was a drastic reduction in the manufacturing of airplanes.
Okay. Yeah.
And since he was born in Detroit, somehow when options were presented, he preferred to go back to Detroit.
And of course, that led to you. You got an education here, right, in the Michigan area?
No, not in here.
Oh.
I have 3 college degrees.
Oh.
But they are all from Cincinnati.
Oh, okay.
2 of them are from the University of Cincinnati, and one of them is from Xavier University, also in Cincinnati.
So
I have 2 master's degrees.
You're the smartest person in the room, basically,
No,
as well.
no. Degrees don't make you smart. If you don't start off with a bit of wisdom,
well,
you don't end up.
Well, you definitely have wisdom. I mean,
well, thank you. Life's wisdom.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, let's talk once more about the book. Now, it is called Into No Man's Land, a historical memoir. Now, writing this, you said it was because of the University of Michigan, right? They wanted to...
well, it wasn't just. The University of Michigan, the chairman of the history, that wasn't, not the chair, the person who was involved, the historian, who was involved in the Holocaust, he knew my story, and they were interested in that. But it took a time for me to be ready to do so. Until about a few years ago, I did not talk to anyone. No one knew that I was a Holocaust survivor. People who worked me just knew that I was born in Europe, but that's about it. It is difficult for me to talk. It's too personal. But when you read my book, the epilogue, you will understand why I wrote the book and why I started talking about the Holocaust, about my Holocaust experiences.
I know that many, people who've experienced that do have trouble talking about it. I've spoken with people who've, been over in World War II and folks at the Holocaust Memorial Center really close by, and I know you're a frequent visitor of there, correct?
I speak there at least once a week.
And they love to have you, I'm sure, yeah.
They do.
Yeah.
Because, I'm among the young ones, and so many of the survivors are dying because of just the age factor.
But it's important, though, to get your story and to hear those.
And I feel for it, so I happen to be fortunate that I'm a woman with a lot of energy. I start my day with 4 miles of vigorous walking. And so as long as I have my voice and my energy, and Bob can drive, I will go any place we're invited. And I have spoken in a quite large range of organizations, high schools, university, many churches, in the courthouse on Constitution Days, 2 years, in the labor unions, and on and on and on. May I mention my website?
Oh, of course, no. Yeah. I was going to actually...
Yes, to find out more where I have spoken and what is my mission, please visit my website, irenemillerspeaker.com. Under the events, it's listed by year where I have spoken. And there are also in the photo gallery, have some pictures of some of the events. And when you go on my website, there is also my email address there.
All right. Well,
and I'll be glad to come to your school, to your church, to your whatever. And
she's active, folks. She's always getting out. She's going everywhere.
Another interesting thing, many of the schools bought a set of books of 30 from me. And then, after the children had the chance to read the book, we Skyped. And they asked me questions. And I have also Skyped with some book discussion groups in the UP, not this year, but about 2 years ago.
All right. Well, thank you again, Irene. I'm so glad you came to share your story with us.
And thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, everyone. Once again, Irene Miller. You can pick up her book, once again, Into No Man's Land, Historical Memoir. It's on Amazon or any other websites where they sell books.
It is on Amazon and also in the Holocaust Center in their museum shops. And 10 books or more can be bought directly from me through my website.
There you go. Listen to her. Don't listen to me. Listen to her. There we go. Once again, Irene Miller, everyone. And, of course, thank you again.
Thank you and have a good day.
Thanks for watching a segment of The Splash. To catch the entire show or other segments, watch us on Comcast Channel 15 or AT&T Channel 99. Or look us up online at thesplash.tv and listen to us on WBLD 89.3, the all-new Lakes FM.